All right, today we're jumping into one of the most persistent mysteries out there, but we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. This is the hidden contact phenomenon. So let's start with a really provocative question, one that's going to frame everything we talk about today. What if all these UFO encounters, what if they aren't really about little green men from another planet, but about some kind of force that is actively trying to shape what we as humans believe? To even start to unpack that idea, we've got to look beyond the usual conversation. So in this first part, let's explore why this whole thing might be so much more than just aliens. You know, for decades, the conversation has been pretty much stuck on this one idea: physical visitors from other planets in nuts and bolts spacecraft. But there's a much more complex and frankly stranger view emerging, one that says we might be dealing with a phenomenon that plugs directly into human consciousness itself. The legendary investigator Jacques Vallée offers this just mind-bending concept. He's saying the phenomenon isn't some static thing, it's adaptive. It actually changes its appearance to fit whatever culture it's appearing in. So you get fairies in one era, angels in another, and, well, aliens in ours. Could they all be different masks for the exact same intelligence? And this idea goes even a layer deeper. As the author Whitley Strieber puts it, our little categories are just way too neat. You know, words like alien, spirit, or even hallucination, they just don't work. Because what if we're facing an intelligence that can exist in matter, in our minds, and in our myths, all at the same time? And this is where Professor Diana Pasulka really connects the dots to our past. She basically argues that we might be using the language of our time, you know, technology, spaceships, advanced beings, to describe the very same kind of experiences our ancestors would have just called, well, religious. The vocabulary has changed, but is the core event the same? So the really crucial takeaway from this first part is this: the biggest challenge here isn't discovering life out there. No. The real shock is realizing that whatever is out there might be deeply, fundamentally entangled with our inner world, with our consciousness, our beliefs, and our very minds. And that brings us right to our next section: contact, belief, and faith. It really begs the question, why do these experiences so often feel spiritual or prophetic or even sacred to the people who go through them? Well, think about it. When an experience comes along and just completely shatters your reality, your normal, everyday words, they just don't cut it anymore, right? So people instinctively reach for religious language. Not to be dramatic, but because words like angel or revelation are the only things that seem to carry the sheer weight of such a profound, life-altering event. And if you look closely, modern contact culture has these striking parallels with how religions have formed throughout history. The structure is almost identical. Witness accounts are collected like sacred testimony. Entire communities spring up around the shared experience. People's lives are totally reshaped. They find a new sense of mission, and a whole new way of looking at reality is built from the ground up. But this is where Jacques Vallée brings in a really critical warning. He points out that if a phenomenon can inspire this level of devotion, this feeling of sacredness, well, that means it also has immense power to shape human belief. And that power, it's not necessarily good or bad, but it means we have to be incredibly careful. Which leads us to the toughest question in this whole discussion: revelation or deception? If we're dealing with some powerful belief-shaping intelligence, how in the world could we ever tell the difference? Whitley Strieber offers a really interesting thought here, and it's not what you'd expect. He says the biggest danger might not be terror. Terror makes us cautious, right? No, the real danger could be comfort. That intoxicating, seductive feeling of being chosen, of being special. That feeling can make us drop our guard and open ourselves up to all kinds of manipulation. So how can we even begin to judge an encounter like this? Well, if we pull together the wisdom from our sources, we can actually build a kind of discernment toolkit. First, you have to analyze the fruit, as they say. Over time, does the experience lead to more humility and compassion? Second, you have to resist that feeling of chosenness. Does it just make you feel superior to everyone else? Remember, comfort can be a trap. And third, you've got to stay grounded. Does it connect you more deeply to your ordinary life, or does it pull you away into a kind of obsession? And Vallée just captures the central dilemma perfectly with this line. An intelligence that understands our most sacred symbols. It can easily provoke worship from us without ever actually having to earn our trust. Just because something feels divine, that doesn't automatically mean its source is trustworthy. All of this, it brings us to our final section, the test for humanity. Because maybe this phenomenon isn't just a mystery we're supposed to solve. Maybe it's a challenge that's asking something of us. So, what would it actually take to face a reality this profound? According to our sources, the answer isn't about better technology or more data. It's about our inner qualities. It's about having the humility to accept that this mystery is way bigger than any one of our belief systems. It's about having the discernment to see clearly, the courage to just live with uncertainty without jumping to easy answers, and maybe most importantly, the tenderness to care for ourselves and for others who are trying to make sense of it all.
You know, in the end, the phenomenon might be a kind of mirror. We might not be able to fully understand it yet, but in the way we react to it, we can see ourselves with perfect clarity. It reflects our deepest fears, our highest hopes, and our desperate hunger for meaning.
So, we're going to end with this one final thought. Perhaps the most important question here isn't, what is it? Maybe the deeper, more transformative question is, what is this mystery asking us to become? Because the answer to that, well, that could define the next chapter for all of us.